Hey, what up? This is Dave One.
This is P from Chromeo.
And you are with
Future Music Magazine.
I mean, we just wanted a studio.
Yeah.
You know?
But also, like, the aesthetic of the studio we found was pretty on brand for us. So we came in, it was ready as is, straight out of the 70s.
It just felt good, and to have like a place where we could do our own vocals and, you know, track drums and stuff. We do have the Private Sector in New York, which is like a small writing and production room
/ office,
which is really fun too. It's like a clubhouse. But we did a lot of the songs from the last album, or the new album, whatever, this album. A lot of the songs were birthed in New York and sort of started there.
In terms of synthesizers, we're pretty good, you know. But then if you want to start going to outboard gear and mics, then it's another level. But we're mostly focused on synths and vintage drum machines and stuff like that. And
I'd love one day if we could have a desk, though. Like, I think that'd be so fun. Like, I think we still have a lot to learn. Production-wise, we evolve naturally. So, like, both P and I, our ideas and our production sort of techniques, they just kind of follow their own path, which is really nice and fun.
Yeah.
And we're sort of able to dial it back or overdo it, you know, sort of freely. And but, you know, we still have a lot to learn in terms of, like, we've never really mixed our own music. We like to work with mix engineers, but it'd be cool to learn how to do more of that ourselves. And, you know, there's still like a lot to learn outside of production, which makes it really stimulating too. So we'll see like where it takes us, you know. We're definitely not done learning.
LM1, Jupiter 8, and Prophet 5. You can make many albums with just that.
I would say sequential drum tracks, Juno 106, and Mini Moog. We could all, no.
No, it's good because then we can visit each other and.
No, I would say drum tracks, Juno 106, and Elka, because you can make a sort of mono Moog bass sound with the Juno. Yeah, and Sonic SQ80.
Yeah,
that was a big one for us. And then, and like, you know, you're starting to use more plugins, like just for the sort of shitty plugin sound. Yeah. A lot of Omnisphere here and there.
High end. I mean, high frequency stuff. You know, like the shimmers that really just sit on top of the music. It's hard to achieve with vintage synths. The low end is no problem. There's always too much. But the top end, the modern grizzle is always with plugins. That's kind of like
soft synths are fun the way you use them, because it's just sort of indiscriminate. It's like it's not like we're using them.
It's like when you use tops. For drums, it's kind of like that, but tops for synths.
But like the Omnisphere on Lonesome Nights, like that really it makes the song. And like on the new one we started, like, I don't know, I like them. But we always had them, you know. Bonafide Lovin', that keyboard pad is
FM7.
Yeah, it's yeah. and the whirly on Mama's Boy is cheap on purpose. So I like these things too. To be able to have like stuff that sounds like VST-ish, you know, on purpose, instead of trying to emulate a Moog. Like, we don't need to do that. But sometimes it's like, I'm like, wait, did you use like a plug-in Rhodes sound? He's like, yeah, we have a Rhodes right here. It doesn't matter. I like the plug-in sound. And he's right. It's better. It's funnier in a way. It
depends on what you want.
Yeah. We don't even
Keyscape. Yeah. Keyscape, Omnisphere.
They're cool.
Diva. What's the other one? Tile Bass.
Like they're not as good as the real thing.
It's something else.
But they're kind of fun. I find them cheap and fun.
It's another instrument.
But there's probably people out there who can make them sound killer. But but the way we make them sound is like another instrument, like, you know, but we kind of bring out the cheapness.
Yeah.
I like the cheapness, because otherwise, like, you have the whole album of Jupiter 8s and, you know, Wurlitzers and Fender Rhodes. It's just like, you got to have something modern in there, you know? That's why we actually use very little drum machines. Most of our drum sounds are samples.
Samples, yeah. Because,
like, if you use drum machines, if you're going to use like an LM1 and a Moog and a Prophet, it's like, I know what that sounds like. It's been done. Like, it's not a new proposition, you know?
We've been collecting samples for years and years. So there we have banks of samples, loops that we chop up and we just throw them. Actually, we've been doing a lot of straight into the DAW. Yeah. Take the WAV file, you know.
I'm the one that was pushing us for a long time to stay into the sampler plugin.
Battery, yeah.
Battery, but because up until Head Over Heels, so up until album number 5, we still had just like an MPC. Yeah. And we would like MIDI program from the MPC, which sounded incredible. But then,
unless you need to get intricate with like hi-hat velocities, there's no need to.
But like, I do those in the DAW now.
Yeah,
it's nice. I don't know. I think we're good on that.
It's more flexible.
It's more flexible. You could stick EQs on. Yeah, I don't know. It's cooler. You just got to make sure you really nudge your drum sounds. Yeah. And like, you move off the grid if you need to, stay on the grid if you need to, and play with velocities. You know. There needs to be a combo of stuff that's like machine-like and on the grid, and stuff that's a little bit off. Because for me to be for me, I mean, you could say, you know, for me personally, if you're playing something live the whole way through, you can play funky, you can get funky players, but you're never going to sound as good as a Kool the Gang record's with the point. Like, you're never going to, it's not, you can't even come close. So it just makes like a new school guy making Kool the Gang light. But like an interesting example for me would be like M2 Me Juicy Fruit, where you've got like a really, really sort of mechanical drum, and then you have other bits of synths and bass that are off. And that creates a fusion that's cool. A lot of the Daft Punk records where they use live instruments are like that too. A lot of, like, a great example too, probably like the finest example, is on Wolfgang Amadeus Phoenix. The drums weren't played live. They're drum machine sounds. And then they came back and just added live hi-hats. So you have this mix of the two. And on everything we've done, we try to have that stuff that's on the grid and stuff that's off. You know, and I think that's the key. And yeah,
there's also like, for me, it's not necessarily about like being off grid, being on grid. Like, you can be completely on grid, and be super funky. It's all about how you syncopate, where your holes are. Like, if you listen to the system, everything is on grid, and it's still extremely funky. If you listen to a lot of like electronic bands from the 80s, early 80s, it's all about the syncopation and the writing, and where you decide to remove some bass notes, you know.
Yeah, because on a song like Don't Turn the Lights On, we were still really quantizing like crazy.
Yeah. The System is a good band to listen to if you want to understand like how to stay on grid but still be funky.
Yeah, you gotta make gaps and stuff. Never overplay.
Total contrast to British band.
Yeah, never overplay. Always underplay. Always leave. Yeah. In syncopation, you always leave notes to the imagination because they're implied, you know. Stuff like that.
Funk is not just about like the feel, the live feel and the groove. It's also about the writing and how instruments play with each other.
Yeah, like there's a lot of groove style funk that is not our favorite. It's not our cup of tea. But like a band like The System, that's really our thing, you know, because they were like electronic funk.
It's really flexible, and it's something that you can make very simple.
Yeah, because for me,
we don't use many plugins. You know, we use like basic reverbs for demos, basic EQs,
basic compression.
If something is powerful enough to load an Omnisphere or a Keyscape, and give us reverb without latency, and we can keep
It's
the old
MIDI
school
mostly, right? Because
Yeah.
we use it for MIDI.
and still have like a simple way of working with MIDI and a nice piano roll, then our flow hasn't changed much since Cakewalk.
Like
We're just adding.
Yeah, because we were on Cakewalk for so long.
Yeah.
Like Ableton is obviously the most, you know, modern, and I would say like quote unquote adequate music production software. Like there's no question, because to my knowledge, it's the first one that didn't try to emulate the workings of a desk with buses and stuff that are like counterintuitive. If you're starting to make music, you just drag it, you know, it makes more sense. But the way we use it is not like that. We need, the most important thing to us is what P said, a piano roll, because we need to be able to write MIDI, adjust the length of the notes, play with velocities, quantize, unquantize, move within the quantize. And, you know, I don't have to tell you how hellish MIDI is in Pro Tools. It's disgusting. And then it's I never want to look at it ever in my life. And, you know, we're running how many synthesizers that are MIDI at the studio? Like 15 more?
More, 23.
But that are MIDI specifically.
Specifically, yeah, maybe 15.
15, 16, at least, synths that are all MIDI, all coming out of a board, you know. So you need to have no latency, everything. Like MIDI programming is the most important thing for us. So Cubase, with Cubase, we were able to replicate the simplicity of our old beloved, you know, 90s Cakewalk sequencer.
We used a lot of H3000 for
Morgan Geist,
who
Morgan Geist, who mixed our album, went crazy on the H3000. Like that's the sound of this album. Really on my voice, on everything.
We'll occasionally use, actually we do use a lot of Mutual Biphase.
Yeah, a lot.
And we'll occasionally go to Space Echo.
And then our
the classics.
Yeah. And but the H3000 on my vocals kind of really defined the sound of this album vocally. And yeah, we honestly just use like 6 or 7 plugins that we sometimes keep when it's time to mix, but to us they're just kind of placeholders and guides, and they're just there to make life easier.